Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. The next one is to-do list. So now let us discuss what is to-do list. Click on to-do list. To-do lists are basically the list of the things that you have to do. You have to do with whom? You have to do with for example, with the vendors. You have to do, for example, with the customers. You have to do with the leads. You have to do with the employees and so on. This is basically the kinds of reminder that you have to do something with the we can say customers. For example, you have to call for the customers, you have to make a meeting for the customers, you have to make appointments, you have to, for example, do something extra things with the customers, with the vendors and so on. So this is the list of those to-do lists that you have to do it in the future. Is basically this is the list. So right now only we have one to-do list, but how we can increase the number of this one? Of course we can decrease it, we can increase it, or we can create this one from the customer center, as well as from the vendor center, from the lead center, and employee center. Let us first of all create some of them from the customer center. Select a particular customer, for example, Marwajan. Then click on to-do list. Right now we don't have any to-do list with her. So if you want to create to-do list, then click on this one, then create new. Then types of to-do. Do you want to call? Do you want to fax, email, meeting, and so on? Let us say, for example, I want to call, right? Then select the priority, whether it is high priority, it is medium, or it is, for example, low. Now let us say it is high priority, right? Or let us say, for example, low priority. And this is for whom? With the customers or with the vendors and so on? No. For example, we can say Marwajan is our customers. Which date, for example, you want to call her? Let us say, for example, in this date. Also, even you can mention the time, which time you want to call her. Let us say, for example, on this time. Let us also mention some details. This is, for example, urgent. This is urgent, or otherwise you can mention several details if you want. Then a status of this one. What should be the status? Let us say, for example, the status right now should be active. Then select this one. Right now, do you have any? Definitely you have. One we have with this one. If let us say, for example, in the future, or for example, on the exact date, you have called her, then it means this is done. You have said you have to do what you have done it. If it is done, then collect this one, then come back to the manage to delete. Then on that case, then select to delete. Otherwise, you can delete it. Select edit, then click on the edit, and instead of active, then you have to select done. It means this is done. Then you can see it is done, right? Or otherwise, for example, you can create several other things with other consumers and so on. Create one more with the Mariam, for example. Let us say, for example, we want to create a to-do list with Mariam, and I have to, we can say, email her, right? Priority is, for example, high priority. And why? Uh, because of, for example, bad dates. Because of what? Because of bad date. I have to call her, and that is active. Then it's safe. So there's a priority. It's still this is active, right? Then the same thing you can do for the vendors. For example, click on the vendor center. For each vendor, you can make a to-do list. For example, to the vendor, then create this one, and then, for example, let's say I have to fax, right? So it is medium. Then of course, Y to fax, send the files. For example, just it is like this, and consider it, for example, as inactive. Then save it. That's also that. Then the same thing can be, for example, for leads. Open the lead center, select a particular lead, for example. Then of course you have to do list. To do, then you can create a new. Then you can, for example, make an appointment, right? Low priority. Why? Because lead is not a customer, so that's fine. Make an appointment, then discuss with him, for example. Right? This should be active. Then save it. Now, if you go to that list, so definitely the number increase in that list. Close this one. Go for the company. Now look and see the list of to-dos. How many to-do you have? Several to-do you have. You may have, for example, more, or for example, even thousands to the list. If you have, for example, 1,000 to the list, then you can sort it. See, it has mentioned types all. Then you can say, for example, calls. How many calls we have? We have 2 calls. Then you can say, for example, how many fax you have? Only 1 fax. How many email you have? Only 1 email that you have to do it. How many meeting? There's no meeting. How many appointments? 1 appointment is there. So in this way, you can filter it how many call for how many people we have to call. If you select call, so you have to call for 2. You have to call, for example, for customer job 1, as well as you have to call for Marwa John. And this is very urgent, right? So this is low priority. Of course, this is high priority. You can check that one as well. So select all of them. Then status. How many of them are active? 2 of them are active. 1, for example, we can say to Mariam, and the next one is to Khan. How many of them are done? 2 of them are done. And how many of them are inactive? 1 is inactive. Again, in this way you can filter. Then, with all, no, I want to just check how many to-do lists I have with the leads. Only 1 with the leads. How many to-do lists do I have with the customers? 3 with the customers. How many do I have with the vendors? I have 1. And how many do I have with the employee? So there is no with the employee. Again, you can select all. Then you can select the dates. Today I have made how many? Today I have made, for example, 4, right? If I said, for example, this week, again, there is 4. Why? Because during the week, I haven't made anything, right? So in this way, you can select it. Otherwise, you can select all. If you select all of them can be shown here, right? Otherwise, if you want to edit it, you can edit from here as well. Click on this one, then you can edit. Then you can make it as well as done. Done. Then save. Now this one is also done. So this is the list of to do that you have to do in the future.